Hello, hello. I have one of my most favorite people in the entire world here with me today, Veronica. Veronica has not only been one of my students, but I feel like we're good friends as well. We just hopped on a call yesterday for our mastermind, and then I saw her face again here today for a podcast episode, and I was like, what a good week it is for me to be able to chat with Veronica twice. I am so excited for you guys to listen to this episode. We're going to be talking about high performing women and how to regulate your nervous system as a high performing woman. And so I before we dive into it, I want to hear a little bit more though about Veronica's story and have her tell you her journey of getting to where she is today. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, what a wonderful intro. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Maya. And yes, it's definitely been a very inspiring week. So let's get to it. So for me, I knew I wanted to go into the field of mental health and nervous system and basically having the capacity to have control over your mind. Not in the way that you are like obsessive compulsive, but in the way that it sort of works for you. It's kind of like a friend. And I started having a lot of mental health issues since I was 13. I was born in Venezuela. I grew up in Miami. And then when I was 13, I had anorexia, bulimia, psychosis, depression, sort of like shit fan. Like things got really bad. And I knew I wanted to learn more about how to help myself and eventually help others too. It was a very long journey for me to be able to not go off the rails anymore. And it actually required me to, I studied psychology. So I have a bachelor in psychology. I also have a bachelor in nutrition. And then I specialized in gut brain. And none of those things by themselves really helped me. So what happened was I left Venezuela and I came to Canada. I live in Toronto now, and at the time I went to Vancouver. I studied at University of British Columbia, and that's when things got really really bad. Vancouver is like a pretty dark place. Like the weather is pretty dark, and I just couldn't find like a handle on anything. I felt that I wasn't good enough despite there not being evidence that I wasn't doing well. Like when I'm talking about academics or boyfriend or stuff like that, but no, none of those things were like filling me up. And I decided to start over after I graduated and I moved to Toronto. And then here I met who is now my husband. But at the time, he was friends with a friend and he's a Colombian. I met him, like fell in love completely, and 3 months after meeting, I proposed. And so I asked him to marry me, and 2 months after that, we were pregnant. And I would say that being pregnant sparked something different that I needed at the time, which is it was no longer for me because I wasn't able to love myself at the time enough to be like, oh, I'm just gonna do something for myself. That's why I was trying like all sorts of therapy. But knowing that I wanted to do it for her so that I could be her mom and not have her like taken away from me or not being able to be there for her. And that's sort of when I mixed everything. I mixed nutrition, I mixed the microbiome, nervous system, but also spirituality, which I feel was a piece that was missing. And I was pregnant. I was very scared about how I was going to do everything because I was just sort of in this limbo with my papers. My husband had citizenship, Canadian citizenship, so he was sponsoring me, but I was in that gap of like my visa expired and you have to wait for them to tell you
Yeah.
whether like it's a yes or no and you're able to stay here but you can't work. And so I was like, how are we going to get through? I had a very critical mental health at the time. I was going to Alcoholics Anonymous with the baby, like literally breastfeeding and like crying at AA meetings, just giving it my all. And at the time, things were really rough. Like I started my business and it was not like people said it would be. It was, I started posting, I thought the internet would explode. Nothing happened. And I was like, okay, what do I do now? So
Yeah.
this is back in 2015. And it wasn't that common to be on Instagram. There were no reels, there were no Instagram stories. And I was just posting. I was like, hey, I do like mental health therapy and, let's work together. And at the time, I specialized in anorexia and bulimia, and also depression and anxiety, but nobody bought, right? I thought something was going to happen. I think that buildup of, I'm going to tell the world what I do, and then nobody listens really
Yeah.
hits you, and you go into the spiral of, wow, this was worse. I thought maybe somebody was going to critique something
Yeah.
or say something or come after me. No, like I was just ignored. And now I had a baby. We were living in a basement. My dad was diagnosed for the second time with cancer. We didn't have enough money to even live in a one bedroom condo. So we lived in a basement in the outskirts of Toronto in a forest. And we only had one car, and my husband had to use it for work. So a lot of the times here in Canada, we get like minus 30 winters. It's really normal, like minus 30, minus 40 Celsius. And it was me with a stroller with the baby, like going to the doctor's appointment or taking her to a play date or something in a bus, and then the subway. And then, so things were really rough. And at the same time, I was starting a business that nobody was buying anything. And we did that for 2 years. So we lived in the basement for 1 year. So it was 2015 I started. 2016 we lived in the basement, and still nothing was happening. And I was like, I don't know if I'm wasting my time. I
Yeah.
applied to a call center to work there, but I would have to take the baby. We had no family. And that's when I started to learn more about business strategy as well, and my relationship with money, and how nervous system has to do with what you want and how you hold it, how you hold during the times of nothing is happening. There's no evidence that this will work. What do I do?
I love that. Okay, we have so much to unpack here. Um, First of all, wow, like getting here to where you are today, it's been quite the journey and so inspirational. Like looking back and just hearing your story, every time I hear your story, it just gives me chills. Like it's so cool to see where you are today. I want you to take us back to that basement in Toronto that you were talking about. You have your baby in your arms, you have, the no papers at the time, you have no money, you have no family that's nearby, and just the pressure of everything, the pressure of, wanting to provide for your baby, the pressure of wanting a successful business. What was the first nervous system practice that you used in that moment? Not what you teach necessarily now, but like what did you do in that moment before you actually knew what you were doing, if that makes sense?
Ooh, I love this question. So, the first thing I did was I found people I admired and asked them how they did it. So,
Mm,
I didn't really have anyone in my circle that was a Latina, that was living in Toronto, that was making money. There was this story in the background of, oh, you're a mom, you have to suffer. Like my mom gave up, she's an economist and an artist, and
yeah,
she gave up everything to raise me. And now I was faced with not wanting to follow those footsteps. I did feel like I had a calling beyond being a mother.
yeah,
Nothing against someone who just wants to be a stay-at-home mom. It's not just, but I mean, who doesn't want to do a business or doesn't want to
yeah,
do something else. But I knew that that was not where I was supposed to stay only,
yeah.
but I didn't have an example of it. And I also didn't have an expansion or an example of not only how to run a business and have a kid and be there for them and be there for the business, but also how to be a woman that was able to make a lot of money, sometimes even more money than the man. I
Yeah.
had no, like, zero example of that, and even less in Toronto. Everyone that surrounded me that was a woman was either working or raising children or having a really rough time financially. And I was like, I don't want any of these options. So I asked
Yeah.
my husband, I was like, okay, we need to find, like, do you have any friends that own a home?
Yeah.
And he had this one friend. It was just one person that we knew who lived in Canada. She lives 2 hours from Toronto in a place called London, Ontario. And she
Mhm.
lived there. She was Colombian. They were actually roommates. And she owned, don't quote me on this, but it was something like 5 fully paid homes.
Wow.
And she, at the time, she had one kid. She now has two.
Mhm.
And she was the one who did it, right? Like,
Yeah.
her husband also has a job, but she's the one through her business that accomplished buying 5 fully paid homes. And
Yeah.
so I was like, can we arrange like virtual coffee with her and or actually go there, um scratch that. It was, we went to her house. I'm like, could you just like be like, oh, we haven't seen each other in a long time. Like, let's meet up, look at my baby, let me see your baby.
Yeah.
And we went, and I remember it felt so far away. Everything she was saying felt like it would take me lifetimes, like centuries to accomplish. She spoke about her work ethic. She spoke about, there was one thing that she had that we didn't have, which was she had a support system. Like, she had brought her parents already.
Yeah.
So my brain sometimes, would look for that excuse, like, oh well, her mom comes to take care of the kids on the weekends, Veronica. You don't have that, so you can't do this. So
Yeah.
I just told my brain to like shut up, and instead of looking for all the reasons that I can't, try to copy the ways that she did do it, that I could do it with the resources that I had. And that was the first thing I did. It didn't bring immediate results, but it created a sort of snowball effect. So what happened was, we went to see her. I got really like shocked. Like, when she said 5 houses, like I couldn't even fathom one. Like, I couldn't
Yeah.
move out of a basement. So to own 5 fully paid homes and then rent them out, I was like, huh? Like, you could tell me it's 500 houses or 5 houses. It's all the same to me. But I made sure I asked her questions, and I asked her the same questions that you're asking me. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did you start? What was the first thing that you do? Did you feel guilty about leaving your kid, like, with your parents, even though I didn't have that situation, but I was thinking about daycare,
Yeah.
or maybe at one point having a nanny, like some other option. And that just opened my mind enough that instead of feeling locked in and frozen and desperate, which is your nervous system, she was able to like pop it open. Because instead of comparing myself with her, like I said, my brain was doing that, but I ignored that. So instead of comparing myself with her, I asked questions, and then
I
I
love
just
that.
took whatever I could, and I tried to apply it in my own way. And that just created a whole snowball effect, because then I started listening to more podcasts about that, blog posts. Back then there were no like reels and stuff like that, but there were a lot of blog posts.
Yeah.
And I started to study more about money mindset, like what was my relationship with owning money. And I was really scared about making money, making more than my husband as well. I was like petrified. I remember my dad saying, like, if you make more money than your husband, you're gonna like take all his masculinity away, and he will leave you. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, there's something I gotta work through, because that definitely hit a nerve.
Yeah.
So at first it was a lot of pain opening up and a lot of like blocks, but then it was going through them one on one. I started to surround myself more with listening to proof and evidence, what you call, Maya, the leveraging evidence. I started to leverage evidence that it could be done, even if I didn't have all the hows at the time.
I love that. So the two things I took away from that, first of all, who you surround yourself with matters. Like your circle is everything. That was the first thing that I took away. And then the second thing, which you said, leveraging evidence that it's possible. So borrowing that proof of success from other people. But there's something that you said that I can't stop thinking about. You said that your goals at the time, like when she was talking about, owning the 5 houses, you're like, that felt so far away. Like you couldn't even like fathom what that looked like. Not even just, the monetary aspect of it, but like owning one house. You're like, that felt so far away. And I feel like that's how a lot of us feel with our goals. We sit down and we're like, oh, well, I want to hit, $25,000 months, but like, that feels like it's like 10 years away, or like it feels so far. Your brain can't even conceptualize getting to that point. What do you even need to do to get to that point? Can you walk through your actual protocol? Like, what does training your nervous system for the income that you don't have yet look like on a day-to-day basis? Like, what is the tangible things that people can do?
So, the first thing that I started doing, which also has to do with noticing when you're starting to spiral down. So, you start spiraling down when you start thinking in a very unproductive way. You start thinking of all the ways you can't do anything. So, you just continue blocking yourself
Hmm.
or comparing yourself and putting others in pedestals. So the first thing I did was stop trying to answer the how, right? So I was just I don't know how, and I started to focus on micro actions every day. And then the other thing is I started to notice when I would start to spiral, which is something that they call the upper limit problems, right? So I would either be like, okay, I'm going to build my first website, which I did on my own, like with a baby, like at 4 in the morning. And it was really ugly. Like it was the ugliest website award ever. I think it's still somewhere because if you Google my first company's name, you would probably find it because I don't even know how to erase it. Like I had no idea how I created that thing. And I was extremely ashamed of putting that out there. And I would think this woman, because I only knew one in the flesh, when she was telling me her story, she did really sort of unhinged things at first that other people criticized her
Yeah.
for at first um, in her business. And that for me looked like publishing a really ugly website. But before publishing it, I would start to notice the little spiral or maybe start getting like a little bit sick or like menstrual cramps would come and I'd be like, oh, I can't like
Yeah.
hit publish.
Yeah.
I started to notice all of these. I can only be seen up to here. Like
Yeah.
I can only, you know, do this. And actually, I started reaching out to other women I knew in my circle, like people I studied with, people I went to university with, and see if we could collab. And I found one friend who was on Instagram. She was doing pretty well at the time. And I pitched. I was like, I pitched a lot and I got a lot of nobody answering back.
Yeah.
But I pitched her. She said yes. And that created like a wave of momentum that I had to keep. So I didn't want for, oh, I collabed and then I did nothing for it. Cause
Yeah.
I started doing like this, like, oh, my website. And then it's like, and
Yeah.
I had to learn how to ride the wave and keep the wave up as opposed to, oh, ups and downs, but downs that were created by me. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there are silence moments in a company, but you ought to still be doing. And so when I started doing that and I started to reach out, that created a lot of momentum. That created a lot of being seen. I started to be more like be different as opposed to how everyone was speaking, how everyone was talking. I was like, oh my God, I'm so nerdy. And, I like money a lot. Like I love money. And, like I shouldn't because I should, in mental health, you have to like be poor. You have to like, I don't know, just do it out of from your heart and not look for anything
Yeah.
like as a reward. And I was like, oh no, I like money. And so I started saying these things that didn't necessarily bring sales right away, but started to make me feel like, oh, okay, I didn't die. I
Yeah.
didn't die from it.
Yeah.
And it was insane because it looks, and this is something I always tell everyone and my mentees and everyone is, it looks like overnight success. It's not. I, quote unquote, overnight went from zero a month to 500 a month to 2,500 a month to 5,000 a month. But I did so many things
Yeah.
before that. It looked like a very fast success, but there were so many things. I had a blog, I had like a YouTube channel, like I did a bunch of stuff. I had the Instagram, I had a bunch of stuff. I even
Yeah.
had Snapchat. I actually started on Snapchat. And then we were able to move from the basement to a penthouse in Toronto. And that required another leap of faith because my husband was like, hell no. This is so expensive.
Yeah.
So there would be these points of making sure that you keep momentum
Yeah.
and not hide, making sure that you're able to recognize the moment that there's this upper limit where the rest feels so uncertain and you feel like your heart is being exposed
Yeah.
that you sabotage doing the thing. And the third component was you're not going to feel like that woman because you don't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So these micro actions that create a very zigzag kind of path, it's not a straight line towards having that experience of being that woman. And then I also exposed myself. This is going to sound a little bit weird, but I had a very toxic relationship with money. So I exposed myself to going into the bank. I would go into
Mm.
the bank and I could literally, I was shaking going to a bank. I'm like, she's going to tell me I'm such a freaking idiot. And she did. Like once I got into it with a teller, like we started like arguing. I started crying in the bank. Like it could not get more cringe. Like I was crying in the bank. Later wrote a Google review and I like sent an email to the bank because my worst fear came true. Like I looked like an idiot. I didn't know about the bank account that I wanted to open and I
Yeah.
didn't find someone who was nice on the other side. But having that experience regulating a combination of different factors from meditation to breathing to going for a walk to talking with my husband about the event and
Yeah.
then letting it go. I started going into the bank more. At
Yeah.
first, I always had to go with my husband. Like, I was like, please just go in with me and we'll withdraw like $50, you know?
Yeah.
But then I started like, I'm gonna go by myself. Like it was an event. Like I actually texted him, I'm going to the bank by myself. He's
I
like,
love that.
go for it. And well, now I can walk into the bank and talk money language, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a different language. Like when you're gonna talk about interest rate,
Yeah.
mortgage, down payment, uh, fixed rate, it's it's intimidating at
Yeah.
first. And so now I can just go in calmly. I no longer have like breakdowns at the bank. But that was actually a really big deal for me.
Yeah, I love that. Can we talk a little bit more about that? So you mentioned, you know, the regulating aspect of it. You talked about, you know, going on walks and like meditating and breath work and all of that. And something that you and I have chatted about a lot, you know, especially when it comes to talking about high achieving women, is that typical therapy doesn't work. You know, so if I'm going into a therapist, you know, once a week and I sit down and I pour out my heart and, you know, I walk away with the one or two or three things that I need to work on for the next week. And, you know, it feels like I'm not getting anything out of it. Can you talk a little bit more about what it is that you do that is different from typical therapy? Not that there's anything wrong with typical therapy, but it doesn't work for a lot of high achieving women. And why is that? And what is the alternative?
Absolutely. Yes. And if somebody is going to therapy and it works for them, that's great.
Yeah.
However, therapy, traditional psychology and therapy is more towards treating illness and
Mhm.
not towards building capacity. If
Mm.
you are going into traditional psychology, you're not going to talk about building home systems so that being a mom is not overwhelming. Like, you're
Yeah.
not trained in how to have home systems, how to make sure, for instance, this morning we all woke up an hour late because my husband and I were like watching The Boros, which is on like a horror thing on Netflix until midnight, and we woke up really late. And still, breakfast got served. There was no yelling. I have two kids, and because we have a system and everybody sort of knows what they need to do, and
Yeah.
I don't need to be hyper vigilant.
Yeah.
The cognitive load doesn't
Mm.
fall on me,
Yeah.
and we're just like a moving system. It should be like a moving boat. That is something that you need to learn as an entrepreneur, especially if
Yeah.
you're a mom,
Yeah.
like home systems, how to be able to have so much extra battery and capacity
Yeah.
when the little one brings the stomach flu home.
Yeah.
Everyone catches this stuff, which was us like a month ago.
Yeah.
Like, no, you know, you still have the normal feelings of this,
Yeah.
but you don't stay there. You're
Yeah.
able to quickly bounce back, and the things that are not so important, will fall off, but
Yeah.
everything that is important is sustained.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we have a sickness system, and it's
Mm.
a box that I have where I have all the different types of medications that, like, everything from uh, propolis to different bee medicines and everything in a box. And when someone gets sick, it's not like, what do we do now? It's like, let's bring this out. Then we know where I get bone broth. I have some stored already, and I already know where I'm going to call to get more. And so the kitchen system is um, sort of delegated,
Yeah.
right? So there are different things you can do with your kitchen system. It's either fully fresh, so you cook and do everything fresh. It's either semi delegated, and that means that you batch some stuff, you organize some stuff, and maybe you buy some stuff already made, but there's also some fresh. Or it's fully delegated, which is you have a chef, or
Yeah.
you have your food brought to you and you don't touch any, like, it's just like open and it's there.
Yeah.
So those things you're not going to learn in traditional therapy, of course.
Yeah.
And you need that. So sometimes it's, oh, how do you feel about yourself? Let's look at your trauma. And it's like, yeah, it's not the trauma. It's not the trauma. It's like efficiency at home and home systems.
Yeah.
So that's one, home systems. The second one is nervous system, which,
Wait, can I pause you before you go into nervous system?
yeah,
For someone who's listening to home systems right now, like, can you just make it like so extremely clear? Like, why are home systems part of mental health? Like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, yes, like I understand, but like, why? How is that connected to mental health? Like, how is that like? Wait, we were talking about therapy over here. Like, now we're talking about home systems. Like, wait, like, can you connect that for me here before you move into nervous system?
yes, absolutely. So home systems matter, especially if you're a mom. They're not negotiable because of cognitive load. So,
Mm,
yeah, we can talk about how nice it is for everything to be clean and to be done and for laundry to be folded. But at the end of the day, the impact it has on mental health is the feeling that I have to do everything, you know,
mm,
that feeling. And don't forget the dinner tonight. And what are we going to have for breakfast tomorrow? And oh my God, the laundry, like, still sitting there for
yeah.
3 days in the stupid chair. And then you scan that, and unconsciously you start to feel behind.
Mm,
And the feeling of behind is going to activate all of the red, like, alarms and signs of you're in danger, you cannot rest. So
yeah.
mentally, and so you can sit down, but if you have a to-do list of 30 things that are hanging in your head, you will not be there.
Yeah.
And that feeling of being behind, which is not allowing you to pay attention to the present when your kids come up to you, you're like, no, I can't read a freaking bedtime story right now. Like, I feel like I want to cry.
Yeah.
And now you feel like a bad mom, like,
Yeah.
see, now, like, I didn't read the freaking bedtime story, because there aren't any clear sort of guidelines as to what is going to be the bedtime system, for example, for yourself or your partner, or
Yeah.
what's the system when they travel. So my husband is traveling this Saturday, right? And I have a system for solo parenting, because it's not the same. He does
Yeah.
a lot as well at home. He's a very active dad, and he takes the kids to school. Well, now I'm going to be taking the kids to school and picking them up, right? So
Yeah.
it means that my entire schedule changes.
Yeah.
If I have to think about it every time again and again, what do I do now? What do I do now? You will never be able to go like that. Like, oh, everything's good, without like having those responsibilities fall off.
So
Right.
it's
So because
basically, that's what you were talking about with building capacity. Like that is the home systems help you to build the capacity. So if you're, what I'm hearing is, if you have the kids and you have the financial responsibility and you have the business and you have a husband that's traveling or even just hobbies, like if you're carrying all these different things, it's like you're able to carry that weight because of the systems. Is that what
exactly.
am I picking up what you're putting down?
Yes, you picked it out. That's
Okay.
exactly what I'm saying. And the way that you make those systems, like your systems, Maya and Maya, are going to be very different, because we have different personalities, because we have different priorities. We live in different cities.
Yeah.
And so the way that you're going to build your system, it doesn't require you to necessarily like hire someone to come to your home and make it all pretty.
Yeah.
It has to do with making decisions and boundaries
Mm.
about what is a yes, what is a no, and what is a maybe, and how much time will I have that in a maybe, both material things. So my home physically is pretty minimalist. Like, if you look at it, in fact, I had some parents from um, my um, my daughter's friends' parents came over, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is where you live? Like, but where are your things?" I'm like, "Are my things? Like, I didn't like rent an empty apartment.
They're like, is this the hotel room?
I didn't just get it styled, or something for you to come over. This is where I live." He literally asked, like, "Where are your things? Are they in storage?" I'm like, "No, these are my things. What do you mean?"
That's so funny.
So it's going to look different for everyone. What
Yeah.
abundance feels like,
Yeah.
what makes you feel safe, what you want to collect. So, for instance, I have like a million things for coffee making, like
Yeah.
a million, because sometimes they think minimalism is like, oh, have nothing. Like, oh,
Mhm.
honey, like, I can make you all types of coffee and all types of things. Just say the word, right? So it means going up on what makes you feel inspired, safe,
Mm.
regulated, and going really down on, for instance, the other day, I was trying to create a system for my son's Legos. My son is 6. Yeah, the system isn't working. Like, okay, either we change this, because I can't keep picking up Legos. Like, it's such a small detail, but
Yeah.
every time I would step on one or I would see one in the corner, I'd be like, and so those micro moments
Yeah.
added, like, not that you can't have little micro moments, but if there are too many of them, you're going to be going haywire. So I was like, okay, honey, like, how about we don't have Legos right now, and I'll buy you bigger blocks, which are a lot easier for him to put away.
Yeah.
And that worked. So we said goodbye to the Legos for now. Maybe they'll come back when he's like 10. So my daughter is 10 and she has no problem with like tiny things. She'll put them back.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we said goodbye to the Legos and we went into big blocks. So it's also about each family member being able to handle their microsystems that are age appropriate. So you
Yeah.
don't end up carrying things that you shouldn't have to carry just because.
I
Right.
love that. Now,
Mhm.
I interrupted you when we were talking about home systems. You were about to go into nervous system. Do you want to talk a little bit more about
Mhm.
the nervous system?
Yeah. So your home system, you're going to build based on your nervous system, right? Like, how do you recharge? So, for instance, I have I have a free test that people can take to know how they naturally recharge today. So the way you recharge can change. And it's basically anything that you do to fill your cup again as fast as possible. It's sort of what we call the nervous system bounce back. So your
Mm.
ability to go into fight or flight or freeze
Yeah.
and go into rest and digest, right? It's that ability to move. The quicker you move, the more resilient and elastic your nervous system is. So
Yeah.
the idea would be that you wouldn't get stuck, right? The problem is if you're getting like stuck
Yeah.
in either like place, you should be able to move between the two states of very like, sort of cortisol, adrenaline shots
Yeah.
and like, and not like in a crazy way, like these shouldn't be huge extremes. So we all recharge in different ways, and you should be recharging daily. And this is one of the things, again, that I have a problem with people believing that traditional psychotherapy is going to be enough. You cannot regulate by going to therapy once a week. Like, that's not a substitute
Yeah.
for needing to find different ways. And so you need to build almost like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
The places that you go work out, the times, like we all have different circadian rhythms as well. Like there are some that are morning displaced, there are some that are afternoon. So I have a peak of creativity in the morning. So I am AM in the morning. But my husband is a night owl, so he's PM displaced.
Yeah.
So the more that you can be, and there are people who are biphasic, which means that a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Knowing that about you naturally, not because like that's a schedule the kids have, or not because that's when I can work out, like what is natural to you
Yeah.
allows you to build those home systems, workout systems, kitchens, like the whole thing that will naturally allow you to flow. So that's the part of the nervous system. It's how are you able to bounce back from stress? How are you able to cap your stress as well, right? Be like, okay, this is my boundary. I definitely need to use my different ways of anchoring my attention, because you cannot pay attention. You cannot have really good ideas. You cannot find the solution to something
Yeah.
if you're completely dysregulated. So a lot of the times, the I can't pay attention or I have a problem with my um, level of activity has to do with different ways in which you activate something that is called I can easily go really nerdy, so I'm trying to like hold back. Something that is called flow state. So flow state protects you from burnout. And
Mm.
if you activate flow state, you must later activate recharge. Okay. You cannot sustain flow state.
Okay.
And so the more that you have flow state, and the more that you have something called awe moments. Awe moments are the moments that you feel like inspired or in awe, like, oh my God, like jaw drop kind of.
Yeah.
You should have more than 7 of those a day in order to stay
Wow.
regulated. Yeah. And they can last anywhere from 1 second to several seconds. They don't tend to last more than seconds, but that
Can
is
you
the
give an
reason.
example of like from like your day-to-day I'm like, do I even have one of those? Have I even had 7 this whole week? I'm like, "Oh no."
Yeah. Yeah. You need 7 daily at least. And for instance, the one that I do first is when I wake up, and this is a rule I came up with, I must first take a deep breath. And usually I'll say, oh, God, what are we going to do today?
I
So
love
that's usually
that.
what I'll say. And that's my first ah moment. So that was sometimes hard when I was breastfeeding because the baby would cry and like want to breastfeed right away. And I was like, God, what are we doing today? But you're going to find your way. And then
Yeah.
the second awe moment I have almost immediately. So I go like, oh God, what are we doing today? I'll do my like wash my face, brush my teeth. Usually I'll be breathing. So I'll be doing some breathing exercise, like breathing slowly and deeply. Definitely my whoop helps me because it tells me how much recovery I have.
Yeah.
Not that you need one, but I really do like it. And then this is my big awe moment. And sometimes it's only going to be a few seconds because the kids will be awake right away or
Yeah.
whatever. But I'll grab a book, I'll go sit in the corner where I'll make coffee. I'll go sit in the corner of the couch and look at the sunrise while I'm reading and drinking my coffee. Like I said, it sounds really beautiful right now. Sometimes the book isn't there because sometimes it's just the book.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no coffee, sometimes there's coffee. And sometimes if the kids are awake, what I'll do is we have a balcony. So I just walk out into the balcony, close the door so I don't have like any sensory input of you're not paying attention, the kids are calling you or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'll have those seconds of looking up into the sky. A lot of people, especially since we're on our phone, have this happening,
Yeah.
right? So, and that's already implying that your head is going first, right? Like they have their shoulders forward. This is implying that your head is leading.
Yeah.
So, how do you make it heart leading, right?
Mm.
So, how do you have heart leading your life? Right. So that's what I do. And there I have 3 ahs, and it's not even like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.
So you're strategically creating like moments throughout the day for that. And it almost sounds like it's like habit stacking too. Like you almost attach it to something else that you're doing. Is that what I'm getting?
Completely.
I
And,
love that.
and as a mom, you have to you have to find the little crooks and crannies, like nooks and crannies of where you're going to be able to put this in and make it your own, right? Like for me, I'm obsessed with reading, and because my um, circadian rhythm is more towards the morning, I have no issue waking up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, even,
Yeah.
and watching the sunrise, right? Like that is fine for me. And so you want to make sure that you look at what you already have in your life and then be like, where can I add a second of being amazed?
Mm.
And then make sure you do that hard thing, sort of like it needs to come with that breathing, right? Deep breath going in through the nose, out through the mouth, let go of the jawline, and then let go of the shoulders. There you
I love it. I love it. Everyone do that right now. Everyone have your ah moment right now. Unless you're driving, then don't.
are.
Okay,
Exactly. We could have that right now, all of us.
I love that. Okay, so you said if you don't have these ah moments and the recharge, then you're gonna burn out. And you were telling me too that there's a huge difference between being tired, being temporarily stressed, being challenged, and like actually slipping towards burnout. And I think a lot of people, including myself, confuse like all of those feelings. It's like, okay, is this 1 week of stress during a launch or during like just a busy season? Is this like, am I heading towards burnout? What would you say are like the top 3 red flags to watch for in yourself? Whether that be like a sign with like your body or your behavior before things like truly break and you hit that burnout point.
Yeah, yeah, I love this question. So, first, being tired is physical and it can be fixed with a nap.
Mm,
So that's the easiest way to diagnose
yeah,
whether something weird is happening. So if you take a 2 hour nap and you wake up and you're like, oh, wow, I needed that. You were just tired.
yeah,
Or if you have a really good night's sleep
yeah,
and you're like, okay, the baby didn't wake up. I was able to have a good stretch and whew, okay, that I feel different. Like I don't have a headache.
yeah.
I don't feel like my hunger has sort of like gone weird. No, I feel fine. So that was just tired.
Okay.
Temporarily stressed or challenged is also fixed, but it has to be fixed by removing the stressor. So
Mm,
if you're in the middle of a launch and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But then after the launch, you're like, oh, wow, I did that.
yeah,
You were just temporarily stressed.
yeah,
Or, for instance, if my husband's going away this weekend,
yeah.
let's see how it goes. The kids are, mind you, my kids are older now, right? They're six
Mhm.
and 10. So it's doesn't compare to like a 2 year old and a 4 year. Like I'm in another stage of parenting.
Yeah.
I love it. At this stage. And so, but if I had like a newborn and a 2 year old and my husband is going away, and then maybe I'm like feeling sluggish throughout and I have a little bit of fog, like mental fog, but then he comes back and I'm like, here, take the babies. And I go for a walk and I'm like, oh, I can no longer hear screaming. Okay.
Yeah.
Whew, the phantom cries are gone.
Yeah.
Then you were just temporarily stressed. Burnout. Burnout is different. Burnout is systemic. So it's basically an
Mm.
inflammatory state and it needs to be dealt with ASAP. There are different stages to burnout. The first stage is actually hyperactivity. And you wouldn't think so. You would think, oh, I'm burning out. Like, I must be like, drop dead on the couch. And it's like, oh, no, that's a later stage. The first
Oh.
stage is you can't sit still. And I can't sit still, but I feel behind and I feel scared. And the drive behind it is distractibility. So your ability to go into flow state, because you can be very stressed in the being challenged part. So if you're doing a new launch, if more money is coming in, but you can still be creative.
Yeah.
You can still be like, whew, I'm having like a lot of ideas. That can't happen in burnout. Usually in burnout, you're just an autopilot. And this is because the neurochemistry of burnout is like the opposite of flow and awe state.
Yeah.
So you will notice that you're less creative, that you are more foggy, that you feel tired, but you can't stop. That feeling of I can't stop is a red flag. So, for instance, for me, and we all get to an early stage, like the beginning stages, right? Nobody here is like, oh my God, I'm constantly like, I'm like perfect, an angel. No, like,
I'm constantly in flow and awe all day.
so wonderful. No, no, no. Like, all I need is, a session with Maya and my upper limit problems. I'm like, oh my God. um, but the idea would be for you to be able to notice that you are starting to feel hyperactive, that you can't stop. If I sit down on the couch to do this all moment in the morning, I can't. Like, I can't read a sentence of the book. I can't focus. I don't know where I should be. Like, I almost feel like I should be everywhere at once. Those are the early stages of burnout. What you need to do there, you need to see what the stressor is. And of course, this is different for everyone.
Mhm.
But usually, behind burnout, there is both the lack of systems, home systems, and proper nervous system. But there can also be a lot of to do with self worth, to
Yeah.
do with having gone through depression or anxiety. Those will make burnout more likely to happen.
Yeah.
And then there's, of course, the shutdown stage of burnout. And that's the one that we typically associate with burnout, but it's a later stage.
Yeah.
And that's when it doesn't matter if you take a nap, doesn't matter if you sleep perfect, it doesn't, like, nothing recharges you.
Yeah.
Like, you're still tired. You're still tired. Usually at that stage, you have headaches, you have gastrointestinal problems. So you have bloating, you are intolerant to lactose, intolerant to gluten, and you
Mm.
have dysbiosis, which is basically your intestine and the microbiome in your intestine is not okay. You have a leaky gut, right? So I'm not going to go too much into that part, but know that intestinal issues, sleep disruptions, so you either wake up too much or it's very hard for you to go to sleep, and headaches and foggy um, mind are signs of neuroinflammation. So you're inflamed.
Yeah.
And then the really late stage of burnout. So if nothing is fixed there, if nothing is intervened, then it will go into something called languishing. Languishing is a precursor of depression. So at that point, you're in apathy. You're in what is called the meh state. So you know the emoji, the meh.
Yeah.
You're
That's
like
exactly what I thought of when you went, "Meh."
meh. Like you're just like I'm not depressed, but I'm not excited to live. You
Yeah.
know, and that's a precursor of depression.
That was like I've never heard burnout explained like that ever, and also, like, in the different stages, like, for me, the way that I've ever heard it is, like, you're either good or you're burnt out, like, there's, like, no in between there, so that was super, super interesting. That is wow, thank you for breaking it down in that way. Again, I've never heard it like that. That was really cool. Um, there's been so many good things that we've talked about, and I have one final question for you. A listener who is in her car right now, she's maybe in the school pickup line, or maybe she's, listening to this in the shower while her kids are screaming and running around her bathroom, already maybe at half capacity. What is the one thing that she can do, within the next 60 seconds to regulate before she's walking back either into mom mode, or maybe she's walking from mom mode into entrepreneur mode, or whatever it is? Like, can you give us an exact protocol that she can do?
So I'm gonna ask her a question. Okay.
Ooh.
So what you're gonna do, you're gonna breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. And I'm gonna ask you now, what is it that you actually need? And then you ask yourself, you feel that, even if you don't have an action, a specific word, trust that it will be shown to you within the next few hours or few days, either as an image, as a feeling. So maybe you felt something in your heart area, maybe in your gut, maybe an image came to mind or a word, or it will be shown to you in your dreams. So, yeah.
Wow, mic drop. I love it. Okay, where can people connect with you? Because I know that they want to connect with you. Like, we need more Veronica in our lives. Like, where can we connect with you? How can we learn more? How can we be a part of your world?
Yeah, for sure. So, with my English community, I'm on LinkedIn, and there is a test that you will be able to find there. I'll also give Maya the link for it, where you can decode the way in which your nervous system recharges, and we can connect there. I'm also on Instagram, but in Spanish, it's Minimalismo Lujoso, and in English, it's LinkedIn. So, yeah.
Yay! Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Oh, you're amazing too. And I'm so happy to be part of this community. Honestly, being close to Maya has been one of the biggest expanders and best things that has ever happened to me. So I feel very grateful to be here.
Oh, you're amazing. You're like the dreamiest of dream clients. I'm so honored to have you inside the mastermind to be able to support you. And thanks for bringing your expertise to us today.
Oh, thank you, Maya. And thanks to all of you. You're doing great. Okay. Don't let that voice in your head say otherwise.